time to bring a friend into the family on News Talk 1480 WHBC.
The Kenny and JT Show is brought to you by Rooster's Wings and More. Be fun. Be casual.
Nothing much is off limits, maybe off color, but not off limits. The Kenny and JT Show is not responsible for bad sports takes, hurt feelings, or yelling at your radio. If you disagree with us, probably not the first time. Definitely won't be the last.
So here we go.
These guys have a lot to say, and they never stop talking.
If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
Sky's the limit and space is the place.
Ooh, yeah. Live from News Talk 1480 WHBC.
It's a household name.
You understand me?
It's Kenny and JT.
Have a great show!
Always nice to start the program off with a little disclaimer. And it's 75 degrees, and we're coming to you live in the corner of 6th and Market, beautiful downtown Canton, Ohio, in this Hall of Fame city. We remind you that football is back. Stadium show tonight, Perry hosting Trucker and the Crusaders. It's the Bazika Brothers at 5 p.m. We've got a radio game tonight. It's McKinley playing host to Warren Harding in an old rematch. Old rivals from the All-American Conference. That game going on tonight at Benson. That'll kick off at 7 p.m. YouTube Alliance at Northwest, 7 p.m. Northwest Guardians? Oh, no. They get to continue to call themselves the Indians, unlike our baseball team. We'll get to them in just a little bit. Start you off with what happened last night here because we had the day off. We gave you our coaches show and a recap of all the great, fantastic high school football coaches that are taking the field tonight. And it's so funny to be talking high school football. What is the date today anyway? August 21st. On my way into work today, I saw probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 school buses on my way in. Hard to believe summer for a lot of us is already over. It was Fairless over Sandy Valley last night by a final score of 44-6. By the way, Jack Kirby, you're going to hear this name quite a bit on this program, is a Grimsley. That's Kristen Grimsley's son. 5-yard touchdown run, second half of that game. A running clock, he scores and had, I believe, 104 yards rushing. You expect that. And the matriarch of the family says he might be the best Grimsley to ever suit up on a football field. Now, all due respect to Mrs. Grimsley, I have to remind her that 2 of her sons played in the NFL. But it's a great story because we're so excited for high school football, and especially for young kids like that are just making their way. And we expect a long, long, fun career from the Kirby. Jackson takes down Chardon last night, 34-13 as well. And we've got a full slate. I'll go over the entire lineup of games tonight, and I've already given you the ones that we're broadcasting on the radio, YouTube, and, of course, our streaming services. When we last left you on the Kenny and JT show, we were talking Guardians baseball. Guardians had a split of a couple of games with the Giants and then finally break through and win a series. And it was like the first series they've won since, I believe, June, taking the rubber game yesterday afternoon against the Giants 5-2. Guardians in Denver tonight. They've fallen from 16 to 20th in the Bleacher Report power rankings, and it ain't good. And I'll read you a little bit of what they had to say. Despite an unusually aggressive trade deadline, the Guardians remain ice cold, and if things don't get rolling soon, Cleveland runs the risk of falling out of the American League Central race that's virtually impossible to fall out of. Pickups: Joe Adell, Foster Griffin, Nate Lowe. There he is. Have been more fine than dynamic, though Adell and Lowe have contributed to a modest uptick in the offense. Nate Lowe gets me thinking about fun things on a Friday. Like this. Let's do it. Come on. By the way, had a Sugardale hot dog yesterday for the day game, and of course, Guardians win it. Could eat hot dogs every day, man. Cruel to be kind. It's a Friday. A lot of people stopping by the radio station picking up those pocket schedules. We've still got them, and I remind you, get here before they run out because they are going fast. Guardians in Denver tonight. You got to take care of business. Get back into this thing, and let's see what happens. A game out of the wild card, 4.5 games out of first place. White Sox slipping a little bit as well. Tigers, you don't know what you're getting there. I'm more worried about the Minnesota Twins, which is amazing because they're ahead of us as far as the pecking order for the wild card right now. But you know what? With 34 games left, Guardians at 62 and 66, can they get on a streak and just maybe get healthy? Adele hit last night, didn't start the game. We're still waiting to see what's going on with Chase DeLauder. And when we talk about guys with, injury history, that name's the one that's going to pop up quite often. And we need him to really be healthy because of the woes that they've had offensively. So you need one of your best hitters to get this thing back because you're in a situation where I believe, what is it, Brian? Help me out here. It's Denver, then the Angels.
Yes.
It's Denver, then the Angels. You're in a situation where you really have to take care of the schedule game here because you're playing teams that are so far under 500 that you don't want to lower yourself to their expectations, which is amazing. And speaking of expectations, we'll move into the other big news since we had left. That was the Cavaliers. And I've got my thoughts on the moves that they made, but let's just say this. Seems like they finally have a fifth starter in Peyton Watson. And if this team will go as far as Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell can take them, then I'm not going to say the sky's the limit because looking at the roster, I still don't believe that they've got enough. But let's think in terms of this. Is there any chance they like this Peyton Watson at 23? He's going to be 24 on 9/11, believe it or not. Intentions on getting a guy like that because of what we've seen them do in the restructured contract of James Harden, making it a 3-year deal. We thought it was going to be a 2-year deal. 3-year deal to get them underneath salary cap restrictions and aprons. And man, it's so hard to figure out what they're doing, especially when it comes to the salary cap in the NBA. But let's think in terms of this. You want a 24-year-old athletic wing player who doesn't shoot the ball well. And when I say that, I mean from the outside, because let's face it, you watch an NBA game, what do? They're running up and down the floor, jacking up threes, but not this kid. This dude is athletic. He's great at the rim. He's a shot blocker. He plays great defense from what I've seen, and he finishes. And these are things that this team hasn't done. So if you're going to rely on the outside shooting of maybe even Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, and let's say maybe even Evan Mobley, then maybe this is what we need to get Evan Mobley finally playing in the direction we thought he would take. Because as I mentioned, this team goes as far as Evan Mobley will take them. It's either that or try to figure out what you could or could not do maybe towards the trade deadline. But this is your team moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see if they have any other tricks up their sleeve before they get to the regular season. What if they didn't want LeBron James? Kenny and I looked at this and thought, you need LeBron James for a number of reasons. In our opinion was this. You needed that fifth starter. You needed someone who was athletic and someone not afraid to tell guys how to play. And you know what I'm getting at when I say that. A good voice in the locker room. That didn't happen. We understand that, and that's fine. And a lot of people were against us thinking that. What do you want a 41-year-old LeBron James for? Because when you consider what's going on with the Philadelphia 76ers, it's easy to look at it and say, on paper, they look great. But guess what? Read into it on paper. He's 41. Father Time is undefeated. We don't wish ill will on anyone, but what if he gets injured? And since you're speaking about injuries, can you really go all in on Joel Embiid? He's had other great starting lineups over there at Philadelphia as well, and it hasn't panned out. I look at the construction of this roster for the Cavaliers and finally look at it and say, we don't have a stable of 6 men any longer. The 6th man has been what doomed this team. And every time we had one we thought was decent, they tried to make a starter out of him, including DeAndre Hunter. And that thing went sideways to a failure as far as making a trade for DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks 2 years ago. Okay, fine. You might look at it and say, well, all you gave up was George Niang and Karis LeVert, but you also gave up second-round draft picks and compensatory picks or whatever that's called too later on. That's too much for a guy who didn't pan out. But you got a 6-man and tried to make a starter out of him, and it failed. It just did. So what did they do? They took DeAndre Hunter, they traded him to Sacramento, and got what? 2 more backups. How does that make any sense when you're in desperate need, in my opinion anyway, of a 5th starter? You didn't have it. Maybe now they have it. We'll have more time to break down the Cavaliers and talk basketball. But again, that's one of those stories that breaks, obviously, when we sign off on Wednesday. And then, of course, we didn't have the show yesterday. So we wanted to get into that a little bit. As we mentioned in the open, football is back, at least at the high school level, because I'm getting frustrated with the Browns, and the season hasn't even started yet. Quarterback battle? Let's think about this for a second. Quarterback battle. Shedeur Sanders versus Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has played 19 games. We've heard it a billion times since he's been here. Hasn't played in 2 years. You got a guy that was a Pro Bowler last year. I don't care what your thoughts on the Pro Bowl may be. Someone thought that he was good enough to make an all-star team because that's what it is. You come into camp, now all of a sudden there's a quarterback battle. Shouldn't there have been a quarterback battle last year between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders for a backup role? Because if Joe Flacco, who came off the couch and ended up starting games, ended up getting traded to the Cincinnati Bengals, were still here, would he be your starter? I mean, if you're talking about a battle, I don't understand the pecking order here. And I'm not so sure that Shedeur Sanders is the answer. And maybe the Browns agree with me. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they're looking at Deshaun Watson, who none of us believe is the future of this franchise. How else can you explain this? And if you're good enough to be a Pro Bowler, shouldn't you be good enough to beat out a guy who hasn't suited up in over 2 years? I don't understand this. Unless, of course, you ascribe to the old saying that you don't lose your starting position to injury. In this case, you can, because that game has passed him by. With the exception of some crazy resurgence of Deshaun Watson, and he comes out playing like he did when he was at Clemson. Forget about the Texans. Not the answer, folks. I can't see it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But barring some crazy comeback, and this guy takes the team not only into the playoffs, maybe a deep run into the playoffs, what do you expect? You can't beat out a guy that hasn't played in a couple of years? Should we be second-guessing Shedeur Sanders? Is Shedeur Sanders good enough to be a starter in the NFL? He wasn't good enough to take reps last year in practice. And we all want to look at Kevin Stefanski and say, what the hell were you doing? Do you know what you were doing? Maybe he was right. Maybe it wasn't his decision to go ahead and draft the guy. Well, if that's the case, who then was at fault for taking Dylan Gabriel? Whose choice was this? You have a 3rd-round pick that obviously he's not even a trade candidate. We're not hearing anything about him. Maybe give him more reps. Crazier things have happened, because if you're looking at just waiting till next season to maybe draft the future franchise quarterback, and the over-under and the win total for the Cleveland Browns is 5.5 games, 5.5 games is too good to have the first overall pick. And a lot of people think the team with that is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. And think about this. If the Arizona Cardinals have the number 1 pick and it ends up being Arch Manning and he throws to Marvin Harrison, deja vu all over again, right? Manning to Harrison, think about it. I think that's interesting too. Strength of this team, at least until yesterday anyway, was probably the defense. Defensive end Alex Wright carted off the field yesterday. Doesn't look good. Kenny texted me and said, I don't know if they've said anything yet, but in my book, I think it's an Achilles. And if that's the case, that's the end of the season. We haven't heard anything yet. No report from Berea on the health of Alex Wright. And the Browns tomorrow kick off against the Bills at home at 1 o'clock. Time permits, we'll hear from head coach Todd Monken. He spoke after practice yesterday. I'm not calling that scrimmages. I'm calling that a joint practice. Kenny en route to Northwest. He's going to join us and check in from Canal Fulton just after 4 p.m. So we've got those issues on the board today. If you'd like to call us early at 330-450-1480, your thoughts on all of those. How are your opinions? How are you shaping up? What do you think about the Cleveland Browns? Normally on a Friday, we would speak to Scott Petrak at brownzone.com, but since the Browns have the day off, we gave him a day off as well. Probably golfing somewhere in Cleveland. I can't get excited over the Browns. I'm more excited about year 82 of high school football here at News Talk 1480 WHBC. In fact, let's go over before we get to our first break. I've got a list of all the games tonight, and here they are. We told you last night, Fairless 44 over Sandy Valley 6, Jackson 34-13 over Chardon. Tonight, Warren Harding at McKinley, Central Catholic at Perry, Glen Oak at Dover, Buckle at Hoover, North Ridgeville at Lake, Green at Indian Valley, Glenville at Massillon. Big game. A lot of my buddies are going over to that one. Alliance at Northwest, New Philadelphia at Louisville, Canton South Garraway, Smithville, the Smithies at Tuslaw, Marlington at Warrensville Heights, United Local at Minerva, East Canton at Chippewa, St. Thomas Aquinas at Strasburg, Trinity at Malvern. Brian, what am I missing here? Where's Canton South? You said Canton. I did? Who are they fighting? Oh, there it is, at Garraway. Canton South at Garraway. Well, you're going to keep tabs on my cousin there. Budry. Go get him there, kid. So those are the games tonight. And, of course, join us on the Kenny and JT Show on Monday. We're going to name every Monday our Wendy's Player of the Weekend. Going to be a great time, man. I can't wait. So got to do a lot of studying. Got to read a lot of box scores. Only on until 5 tonight here on the Kenny and JT portion of the program due to the fact that the stadium show, the Alt Care Stadium show, is going to be, you start off a season with your biggest rival. Central Catholic at Perry, the stadium show going on at Perry. Hopefully you can hear them because the last time we were there, they played that radio so darn loud, we couldn't hear ourselves think. The Bazika Brothers bring you the Alt Care Stadium show. Opa! That happens at 5 p.m., and we can't wait for that. And high school football is back, and we will be right back after this as well on the Kenny and JT Show. Join us with your thoughts at 330-450-1480. Let's go.